The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon. Before we get started, we want to check to make sure our audio is functioning. So if you can hear me speaking, and you can raise your hand using the hand icon, that lets me know that the audio is working okay. Awesome. Thank you. So you can go ahead and lower your hands. Welcome and thank you for attending the State Board of Pharmacy, State Board of Nursing, and Colorado Medical Board's joint stakeholder meeting via webinar. Today is February 14th, 2022, and it is 1:30 p.m. Before we get started, we would like to introduce the staff members from the Division of Professions and Occupations that are present. My name is Darcy Magnuson, and I'm a regulatory analyst with the division. Also attending is Dimitri Kunin, Senior Program Director, and Elena Kemp, Regulatory Coordinator. Due to concerns regarding COVID-19, the division has transitioned to a platform that is 100% virtual, and we appreciate your flexibility. As many of you have been to DORA stakeholder meetings before, we would like to reiterate the importance of your comments today. DORA makes decisions every day that may affect your life and your business, so your input is vital in the rulemaking process. Throughout this process, our goal is to create regulations that clarify and explain legislation, ensure minimum competency to enter and continue to practice, and provide only what is absolutely necessary for consumer protection without creating unnecessary barriers to the marketplace. The purpose of this joint stakeholder meeting is to discuss the proposed revisions to 1, the statewide protocol for prescribing hormonal contraceptive patches and oral contraceptives, which is Appendix A, 2, the Colorado Self-Screening Contraception Risk Assessment Questionnaire to include vaginal rings and depot medroxyprogesterone acetate, DPMA, and 3, the summary chart of the U.S. medical eligibility criteria for contraceptive use to align the rules with recent updates from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC. This meeting is being recorded and will be posted on each board's website by the close of business tomorrow. As this stakeholder meeting is held solely by webinar, please raise your hand using the hand icon if you would like to speak, and we will unmute your line so you will be heard by everyone, or you can type your comment in the question section and we will read it aloud. Before we start taking comments, I want to ask that anyone providing comments please state your name and the name of the organization you represent, if any. Feel free to provide either general comments on the rule changes or specific comments on the proposed language. Please limit your comments to no more than 3 to 5 minutes and try not to repeat something that was already said. Stating you're in full agreement with someone else works just fine and will be noted. If you are using audio through your computer, please remember to put any phones on vibrate or turn them off. And whether you are using computer or phone audio, try to keep background noises to a minimum when speaking. So before we take stakeholder comments, Dimitri, I didn't know if you wanted to say anything. Otherwise, we can just jump right into getting comments from stakeholders.
I'm good, Darcy. Thank you, though.
Okay. So as I mentioned, if you would like to provide comments, please raise your hand and we will unmute your line. Or you can type in through the question function and we can read your comments out loud for the recording. Okay, Gina Moore, we should be able to hear you.
Hi, I don't know, I'm happy to provide a little bit more background if it's of use to the audience, just about the Oregon perspective and why we're introducing this, and then some of the Mec updates. I just wanted to offer that to the group if you'd like me to provide that perspective.
I think that's helpful. You're welcome to do that. So. Okay,
thank you. So just as some background for this group, since myself and Emily Zanforni, who I believe is also on the call, were kind of behind bringing forward a lot of the statewide protocols. We followed the Oregon model at the time that this was introduced, and at that time, they only had the self-administered oral contraceptives and the patch. Since that time, they actually introduced per statute the 2 additional dosage forms, the vaginal ring and the depot medroxyprogesterone products, after they found a lot of success with the first 2 products and felt like this was a wider opportunity to offer women a couple more choices. They have not encountered any problems with providing those options as part of pharmacist prescribing of those as well. And then the Mec criteria, which, as you know, or I would presume most of you know, are based off of the U.S. medical eligibility criteria that are published and updated periodically from the Centers for Disease Control. Those were updated last in 2016. So this was, and there were just minor changes, but we wanted to make sure and bring all of our protocol in line with the current CDC U.S. Mec criteria. And happy to answer any questions, but just wanted to provide that perspective. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And certainly this is definitely a forum where stakeholders can communicate back and forth. So if anyone would like to respond, you can do that now, or if you have additional comments. But for now, Gina, I'm going to place you back on mute, and feel free to raise your hand again if you'd like to add additional feedback. We did receive a couple of written questions, comments from Kai Tao. The first one is, did this state 18 years and older only? And the second comment is, can we confirm the DMPA is both subcutaneous and intramuscular? Did you want to weigh in on that at all, Dimitri, or?
No, I think, Gina, if you don't mind, you're more than welcome to speak to that, to those pieces as well. Like Darcy had said, this is a forum for stakeholders to share their thoughts.
Sure. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So all of the statewide protocols since their inception, well, I think PEP and PrEP might be an exception, and Emily can correct me if I'm wrong, but yes, when we first introduced the legislation, the Pediatric Society was fairly adamant that that be for individuals 18 years of older, so that would be the case here as well. And that is a great question about the sub-Q. I need to double check that, but I can certainly do that and let you know.
Okay, thanks, Gina. And I'm going to leave you unmuted on our end. Kai Tao, I see that you can't unmute. You are unmuted on our end now, so we should be able to hear you if you wanted to add anything else to your written questions.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Great. I just want to confirm, yeah, the 18 years or older, because Illinois is one of the states, right, that doesn't have specific age requirements for contraception, though oftentimes, and I'm a Medicaid provider, there is a statute that someone 12 and older can consent on their own without adult or guardian for STI testing. So oftentimes we just say contraception and STI testing is 12 years and older because we want to make sure we can do the STI testing per recommendation. So it will be a very conflicting from what has been happening in Illinois for many, many years for someone 12 and older, even under Medicaid, to consent on their own for contraceptive services. I know you guys aren't doing STI testing, but I would assume, maybe talk about recommendations or whatever is in the patient handout that would be appropriate.
I can just comment a little bit about that. I completely agree with you, but it was the Colorado pediatricians that opposed that for under 18, thinking that, or with the rationale that they would have a medical home with a pediatrician's office, and weren't comfortable with making that available to individuals under 18 years of age. So that would require a statutory change.
Gotcha. Okay, great.
Thank you both. Again, I'll place you on mute for now, but if you want to speak again, feel free to raise your hand. While we're waiting to see if anyone else wants to weigh in, I do see we have someone else. I wanted to let members of the public know that we do have Roberta Hills here as well from the division. She's the program director from the Board of Nursing, Colorado Board of Nursing. Emily Zadvorny, I see your hand is raised. yourself muted. There we go. We should be able to hear you.
Hi, everyone. Emily Zedborny, Executive Director with the Colorado Pharmacists Society. I just wanted to go on record as well for the society that we're in support of these changes to the rules. The protocol, as Dr. Moore described, was originally developed not only with Oregon State, but also great input from CDPHE and great collaboration there. And even at that time, there was a lot of discussions about adding the extra forms of hormonal contraception, but for reasons already stated, we didn't do it at that time. So again, this protocol is already widely used across California. This would just give patients more choices of the form of hormonal contraception they want to use. I can say that as a member of the National Alliance of State Pharmacy Associations, this is certainly very common for, as these protocols roll out across the country, for all forms to be considered or to be included. And of course, the board can correct me if I'm wrong, but to my knowledge, there's been no safety concerns reported in the 5 years that the protocol has already been out. In fact, there's data coming out of Oregon, not Colorado yet, but coming out of Oregon, that over the first 2 years of a similar program being implemented there, they saved over 51 unintended pregnancies and over $1.5 million to the state. So I think this has been an example of a successful protocol and just looking to expand it for more patient choice. So we support it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Another comment from Kai Tao. Would this include emergency contraception pills, levonorgestrel, or ulipristal acetate, with the latter requiring a prescription usually? And I can unmute as well if you wanted to add anything else to that, or if anyone wants to address those questions. Gina, we should be able to hear you.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks. It does not, but that is a great point. I mean, I think that if there's widespread support for adding those, we would be more than happy to add those to the protocol. I think that's a good suggestion. We, as this group probably knows, those particular products are controversial, so we didn't go after those with this protocol, but certainly I think that is a very reasonable ask if there's support for doing that.
So I think that would be a good comment to add in as a comment into the document, Elena. So if you want to make sure we capture that correctly so that we can get additional feedback on it. And then, sorry, I am saying your full name anytime before you talk, just so that the record is clear on who's speaking, even though we know whose voice it is, but just so people know in the future.
Oh, sure. Thanks.
Alyssa Patterson would vote to add Alyssa Patterson, PhD, CNM, representing ACNM Colorado affiliate. Are you clear, Alina, on adding that comment in, or do you want me to get additional?
Yes, this is Elena. I've got it. I'm actually copy and pasting from the written section.
Perfect. Gina, I saw your hand was raised. I don't know if that was from earlier.
Oh, sorry. And I realize I could probably take this offline with Dr. Coonan, but if you would like me to make those changes and resubmit, just let me know.
Okay. No, I appreciate it. I think we'll leave the feedback kind of up to the board, and if they'd like that, we'll polish up the language then, or there will be that opportunity to provide the feedback at the end of the hearing. We still have a few more check boxes to go in terms of the other boards, but I think it's a viable revision that we'll make in the future. Thank you.
I'm not seeing any other raised hands. We haven't received any other written comments. So we'll pause here for a couple more minutes to see if anyone else would like to provide any feedback before we move on with next steps. All right, Emily Zadborny.
Yeah, hi. I think as you were scrolling through there, and it might have been up above there, I thought I caught sight of the administration for the IM only. So I think that a comment could be added there, depending on the other boards and clinical experts, about adding sub-Q, which is an accepted way of administering now as well. But I think it might even be up, yeah, right there in number 5.
This is Elena. I just want to make sure that I'm clear on your suggestion. You wanted to add something or a comment to subsection 5, and what exactly was that comment?
I think it was in relation to an earlier comment about, is it given just intramuscular, or could that also be expanded to say subcutaneously as well? Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll wait till Elena's done adding that, and then we have someone else who has a raised hand.
And what is the correct, Dimitri, maybe you could help me out with this, the terminology, subcutaneously?
CUT ANEOUSLY. EOUSLY.
Sorry.
You're good. Okay, Rebecca Kennett, your hand is raised. We should be able to hear you.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, if you could scroll down just to the training program section, I think. I also noticed right there, it says in the part that's red right now, only the pharmacist who's done the training may dispense or administer hormonal contraceptives to a patient. That phrasing makes it sound like pharmacists can't administer or even dispense right now if it is, a prescription from someone else. So that phrasing, I think, could be problematic because at this time, California or Colorado pharmacists could certainly administer, Depo-Provera that's written on pursuant to a prescription, is my understanding. So maybe here we just want to say prescribe instead of dispense or administer.
Okay. And then back to the other comment by Emily Zadborny. Elena, she said that the comment would be to add both IM and SC, not or. So if you want to change that in the comment right above that, just from an or to an and. Rebecca Kennett, I see your hand is raised again. Sorry, it looks like you lowered it. So if you want to speak, just let us know. Okay, so we'll continue to scroll and then give a few more minutes if anyone else wants to add anything. So we'll just wait until 1:55 p.m. and continue to monitor. And as always, you can submit written comments to the email address that's included on all the notices for stakeholder hearing meetings and rulemaking hearings, which is Dora_DPO_rulemaking at state.co.us. We do have another hand raised, Kai Tao. We should be able to hear you.
Yeah, no, on C here, prescribe if clinically, what I'm seeing right in front of the screen, if clinically appropriate, the hormonal contraceptive PATS, self-administered oral hormonal contraceptive, DMPA should be, but do we forgot the vaginal ring, if we're relisting them again here, and we're relisting the emergency contraceptive pills, I wasn't sure how, if this section's, this subpart C, vaginal ring, emergency contraceptive, I'll refer to. Okay. Yeah, I'm not if we need that self-administered oral hormonal contraceptive, right? I don't think we're doing direct observation of oral hormonal contraceptive.
Gina Moore, you're unmuted.
What might even be easier is prescribe a contraceptive agent if appropriate, or refer to a healthcare provider.
Right, or something, right?
Yeah, good catch though.
Okay. feel free to weigh in if we didn't get this correct. You both should be unmuted still on our end. So both Gina Moore and Kai Tao.
Yeah, I think we can just make it simple, but yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
We received a written comment from Deep Eid, sorry, I know if I mispronounced your name, from CVS Health, wanted to voice general support behind the concept of expanding dosage forms for RPH prescribing of HC. We support the changes being proposed and have submitted published literature to help back the expansion with evidence-based outcomes of this practice. Thank you. And like I was mentioning earlier, you can provide written comments. And then as far as looking for these draft rules, if you ever want to review them again, they are sent out when we send the stakeholder meeting notices. And then you can always find them on the website for the boards under the public notices tab. We do update them throughout the process. That's also where we post the recording of today's meeting. So if you wanted to listen to it again or share it with anyone else, that's the location where we post it. And then finally, we post everything on the board's calendar, public calendar, which shows up on the department and the division calendar for meeting notices. And then they will always have links to the relevant draft rules and the information about the purpose of the meeting. So. Okay. So I think we'll do a last call here. If anyone else would like to weigh in, please raise your hand and we'll unmute your line, or you can type in written questions or comments that we can read out loud for the recording. Otherwise, if we don't have any additional comments, then we'll go ahead and wrap up the meeting here soon. Vicki Lee Einhellig, sorry for mispronouncing your name, under section 3A, does it make sense to allow appointments to be scheduled? Emily Zadborny?
Yeah, hi, thank you. I can further comment on that too. And I appreciate those comments by Vicki, who is an independent pharmacy owner, and we all know how busy the pharmacies are. And so I think the original intent behind this wording, where a pharmacist must not be required, or a appointment cannot be required, was really to get out the public access to this service. So, you know, part of how this all came to be and the concept of a statewide protocol was to allow patients to access these types of public health services when they need it. So it could be after hours, it could be on weekends. So I think allowing, I would like to see the language allow appointments, absolutely, because I know that works for some business models, but I think it's important not to go down as far as taking out the language that ensures it's not required.
This is Elena, and I just want to make sure that I'm capturing the comments and recommendation correctly. But I'm not sure if this particular comment should be added, and if the rules absolutely don't allow for appointments. It just says must not require. So I don't know, maybe the comment is already implied in the rules. Dimitri, do you have any thoughts on that?
I don't, not specifically.
And we did receive a written comment from Vicki Lee Einhelig, who said, thanks, Emily, looking for the language to provide flexibility for the patient and pharmacist. So I think that's what Emily was getting at with allow versus require. So hopefully that's captured in the comment. You should be, Emily, we can hear you if you want to chime in anymore.
That's acceptable to the busy practitioners. So absolutely, if they want to have a appointment schedule that patients could access and fill up, that's amazing. I think the question in my mind would be that we would turn away patients that didn't have an appointment. So I don't know if Vicki wants to weigh in or not, but I think that's important. And hopefully, if we had the ability to be flexible with that, where they could schedule appointments but also still walk in, it would cut down on some of those walk-ins. Probably hard to deal with sometimes.
So,
thank you. Go ahead, Dimitri.
Emily, would you want to just change, just so on the same page, in A, just change the word require to allow?
I think if you change the word require, then it's negative, right? Because it would say a pharmacist must not allow a patient to schedule. So I feel like the wording is fine, but I don't know how the practice in pharmacy.
Got it. Okay.
Vicki Lee, we should be able to hear you if you want to provide an additional.
Great, thanks. Hi, this is Vicki Einhelig. I think initially when the statewide protocol came out, it was a little bit of a panic that it was going to be kind of wide open and there wasn't going to be the flexibility for the pharmacist to make an appointment if they needed to in order to get the work done and then also meet with the patient. So I don't think the patients are necessarily going back to this language to read it and to have a problem with it. I just want to make sure that, just as Emily described, it is a significant amount of time that we're spending with these patients to make sure that they are meeting criteria and taken care of, and we just want to do that in a proper setting versus trying to do it on the fly. Thanks.
Thank you. Gina Moore, we should be able to hear you.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to, and I would suggest, this is old language, obviously. I went back to the original bill, which is Senate Bill 16-135, just to double check there wasn't anything in statute that would conflict with this. And I would suggest that we may want to just consider striking this altogether, this particular 3A, and just be silent on that point. But I think we're all very appreciative of the demands in community pharmacy right now, and would defer to the chains or business owners in terms of how they want to run their particular practice.
Thank you. Okay. Anyone else? Not seeing any other raised hands. Dimitri, did you want to add anything, or do you think it'd be okay to wrap up at this time?
I think it'd be okay. Thanks, Darcy.
Alrighty, so thank you for participating in today's meeting. All comments and recommendations will be provided to the State Board of Pharmacy for review and consideration before the next board meeting on March 17th, 2022. Always remember that you can continue to review these. I appreciate the close review that folks have done so far. And then you can provide written comments, which will be provided to the board as well. That does conclude this joint stakeholder meeting, and we thank you again for your participation. At this point, we are going to go ahead and end the webinar.